Hey guys, it is Sequoia with the Chase Street Renaissance. I said I was going to do another video of the Shapemakery 4-inch 16-ounce mold. I said I was going to show you guys, what my findings are when it comes to how much cement I have to use to not waste any. And I really do just kind of use my judgment and eyeball these kinds of things. But like I said in my last video, at a minimum, I like to measure out my cement. And if I'm going to do like 1 or 2 of my smaller jars, my 3-inch jars, then I will measure out my cement and my water. But for the most part, at a minimum, I like to measure out my cement. So I'm going to cue the intro and we'll get right into it. So I'm always out here working, so my workstation is always kind of messy, so bear with me. If you're going to be doing this for a long period of time, your workstation is probably going to look just like mine. So bear with me. So I have my gloves on. I'm going to try to keep everything kind of in this general area because I think this is kind of where my camera's angle is. Sometimes I feel like I'm like way back here and y'all can't see anything. But I'm going to be pouring this one. I'm only going to pour one. These are 2 new colors that I am working on right now. So both of these were made with the Direct Colors pigment. And this one I already kind of do like a gray, darker gray jar. But this one is even darker than what I already do. So I was going for a jet black. It didn't really work out, but still kind of nice. Okay, I don't know where I left off. I had to step away because my son came in here, and my son and my daughter, they're at this phase where they're fighting each other all the time, like verbally and yelling, and this is my toy. It's a mess. So anyway, I'm gonna try to make some sense of my area here. Y'all know I keep well, maybe you don't, but I keep my cement here under my workstation, and I actually just bought this from the dollar store. I was using a 1-cup measuring scoop, but it doesn't really matter that it's 1 cup because I use a scale anyway. So I thought that this would work a lot better for pouring it and dumping it into my bowl. So I'm gonna get my bowl on the scale, and just to eyeball it. Okay, here's my thought process. Okay, this is how I came. I'm gonna go with 500 grams of cement, right, for one of these 4-inch molds. Here's how I came to that. I know that for the 3-inch mold, it takes me 300 grams of cement to fill this up. So I figure if I double it, 3 and 3 is 6. So it'd take me 600 grams. I mean, if I take it down 100 grams because instead of a 6-inch mold, it's a 4-inch mold. I don't know. Anyway, it makes sense to me. Y'all kind of see where I'm going with that. Long story short, I came up with 5. We're going to go with 5. It worked the first time. I'm going to see if I maybe just got lucky or if it really does take 500 grams. I know there's another YouTube video that I have not watched, but the title has to do with basically being able to find your exact measurements for any type of mold. But I'm just so blessed that I really don't think I have to do a math problem to figure out how much cement I'm going to use. I just kind of use my better judgment. I don't know. It's a blessing. Let's see. So that is 506, 505. We're going to go with that. And for my water, I'm just going to add it. I'm going to do something else. I actually think I'm going to add some color here. Let's see. I've been working with, what have I been working with? You know what? Let's do titanium dioxide. Let's just do white. Let's just go with white. This I'm not measuring, I'm just eyeballing it. If I had to guess, that might have been 3 tablespoons, maybe. But not measuring it. I'm gonna mix in my titanium dioxide first. And titanium dioxide basically means white. That's not what it means, but that's what it is. Okay, so I omitted the measuring of the water because I didn't have my scale. I hadn't torn my scale, so my measurements were going to be super inaccurate. I don't know how much water I put in there, but we're just going to go with it. Like I said, at a minimum, I want to measure out my cement. And we're just going to press our cement up against the sides to break up any of those clumps. I'm noticing that I got a little bit of red in there because I don't think I cleaned out my bowl well enough to do white. I would recommend that if you're going to be doing lighter colors that you get more bowls so that you can do the same colors in the same bowls. Do your darker colors in one set of bowls and your lighter colors in another, because you don't want to end up with discoloration when you're trying to do something like white. So, but this one we're just going with the flow. I'm probably going to use this as a testing bowl. I would also recommend that if, speaking of testing bowls, that if you are going to, if you're going to test your colorants, just to see what you like, that you obviously use those bowls as your testers. I would say that you should probably, I'm gonna add just a little bit more water. I would say that you do the wickless testing if you're gonna be making candles with these jars that you're making. Wickless testing basically is you're not having your wicks anchored down to the bottom of your vessel. So you're not gonna be using wick stickers or anything like that. You're gonna pour your wax into your vessel and either just stick the wick, depending on the size of your wick. You might have a smaller wick like myself. I use CDN 2 through 4 depending on the fragrance and the size of the jar, but you'll just stick the wick down in the wax like that, and you'll be able to pull the wick back out and retest another wick with the same jar, or retest another scent with the same jar. So, oh my gosh, did we do it? Did I just do that? Obviously, I'm gonna scrape the sides, right? Because we're not wasting. We want just enough. Like if I wanted to make one single custom candle for someone, I want just enough. Those little flakes you see in there, that's pigment from a different jar that I made that's flaking off the side of the, oh my goodness. And there you have it, folks. I think I just did it. Just to be even more on the safe side, so you're not having to scrape your bowl to death to get out. Like, this is how much I have left in there. It's practically nothing. So what I would say is 500 and maybe like 15 grams of cement for this vessel. This is the Shapemakery 4-inch diameter mold. You're going to get a jar that is this size. This is with wax and without. I was testing it. These wicks obviously failed, but this is what you're gonna get. Very large jar. And this is, I'm gonna show you another tester that I had. This is the 3-inch. So this one holds about 7.5 ounces. And I do use the lids. And this one I actually found holds 14 ounces. I use coconut apricot wax, and I was only able to fill up to about 14 ounces. I am gonna use a lid with this one. So this is what you're gonna get. This one has fragrance oil. This one does not. And both of my wicks failed. Like I said, I like to do double wicking, but this is the difference. And also these are not anchored down. Let me see if I can pull one out. I can't. I don't think I'm gonna be able to pull it out. Oh, there it is. So the wicks are not anchored down. I just poked a hole with like a nail because these wicks are really small, so they do bend when I try to get it down into wax. So there you have it. I actually bought I'm gonna move this over. I don't necessarily recommend picking them up after you've already poured. You don't want it to distort in any way. But like I said, these molds, unlike the molds from Modern Craft Lab, they don't come with this plastic rib that kind of goes around the mold. But honestly, I don't think that it's necessary for either one of them. I don't think it's even necessary for this one. These walls down here are thinner than the walls from the Shapemakery. The only part that is a lot thicker is right around here, around this edge. Since my Shapemakery's mold doesn't have this hard edge here, it's not as thick up here. But the overall thickness down in the center here, Shapemakery is a lot thicker, in my opinion. So it really does hold its shape very well. You don't have to worry about having a jar that's distorted in any way. So now that we've done, I'm just cleaning off. Okay, so now that we've done our jar, we're gonna do our lid. Since I already have, let me set this stuff to the side. Since I already have this in here with the white, the titanium dioxide with the white, I'm just gonna do the same thing over again. I'm gonna use titanium dioxide. So let's see, I'm gonna turn my scale on. Let's go with 250. Let's see what that gives us. I think I use about 100 to 150 for the smaller lids. So I'm gonna go with 250. Yeah, I love this. So much better than the 1 ounce measuring cup. This dollar store, well, $1.25 store, because you know they raise the prices. So anyway, I'm gonna get a little bit. You guys want me to measure the titanium dioxide this time? Let's see. I don't even think I have a measuring cup. Here it is, I found it. There's a little bit of blue in it, but we don't care because we're just testing. This is a teaspoon, actually. That was 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. Let's just go with 2. Let's go with 2. You know why? Because for my black, when I was making these jars, I measured all my cement in there for 4 jars, so 3, 6, 9, 12, and then my water, and then I added, I believe, 4 teaspoons each. It was either teaspoons or tablespoons. Don't get me lying. Let me stop talking about that because I don't want to mess y'all up. Okay, so here's this. We're not going to measure the water because we don't care about that right now. The weird thing about the titanium dioxide, and you're gonna find, I guess, kind of frustrating, is that it doesn't really seem to matter how much you add to your mixture. Since the cement all is a gray cement, it's a gray base. You'll find that when you order from Direct Colors, it asks you what your cement base is. Is it white or gray? And you're gonna choose gray. But it doesn't really seem to get much brighter than this, honestly. And then once you add more, you start seeing like little white swirls as if you can't mix it enough. So the titanium dioxide kind of gets me a little bit sometimes. I think this is good. I'm just gonna go ahead and pour. What did we say? That was 250? Oh my gosh, did I do it again? I kid you not when I say I literally just eyeball this stuff. I just think about it. I don't know. Man, how dope. Man, I'm blessed. Okay, so that's that. I showed you. So this is actually starting to set a little bit and get warm, which is nice. You'll find that cement all does get warm once it starts to set. I don't recommend unmolding it until it is kind of cool to the touch. It still might feel a little wet, but cool to the touch on the top and on the sides is what you want before you start to unmold it. You don't want to run the chance of, or run the risk of breaking it while you're unmolding it. So I'm going to let these set. I'm probably going to let them set for about 3 hours before it's safe to unmold them. I've kind of found. I think that this could have used a little bit more filling here. I don't know if you guys can see that. And kind of right around here. So that's why I said maybe 515, 520, just to be safe, of your cement for the 4-inch Shapemakery mold. So I'm gonna let these set and unmold them in a little bit, and I'll let you know what it's looking like. Okay, so the jars have set, or the jar is set, and so has the lid. So I'm gonna unmold it now. This spot happened because of my 3-year-old touching stuff. Anyway, if you have toddlers, you have kids, you get it. So I'm gonna unmold these. I'm gonna put on gloves just because sometimes my nails scratch up the sides of the jar. Anyway, I'm gonna start with the jar itself. It's cool. The sides are not warm anymore. Nice and hard, minus that spot there that looks terrible. So I'm just gonna separate the sides and peel it down. Sometimes I would say work pretty quickly with it, because if you third time's the charm. If you take too long trying to get your hands around the side of it, it's gonna flap right back up. So work pretty quickly. It's so pretty. This one is a lot more difficult to unmold than the smaller ones. Oh no, my glove. That happened because my workstation is dirty and I sat it on the side. So you might see how there's like a lift here that I can crack off. I would just take some sandpaper. I have sandpaper, and just sand the edges. So I could have filled it a little bit more, like I said, but I would normally just kind of crack off the pieces that would easily come off. and then just sand it, or just sand it minus this little piece here. But yeah, that's the final result minus this little spot here that I got from laying it on the table. Nice and smooth. One little bubble there, one little bubble there. No big deal. Okay, now for the lid. There's our lid. So again, in my last video, I talked about the difference in the Modern Craft Lab mold and the Shapemakery mold. The difference in the thickness from inside the mold and outside of the mold, pinching it like that, you can noticeably feel the difference in how thick that is in comparison to how thick it is from the inside of the mold on the Shapemakery and the outside. It's a lot thinner. You see how I can kind of make a dent there? You can see the dent of my finger pretty clearly. Not as much on the Modern Craft Lab, which means you can see the difference in the thickness of the Shapemakery mold and the Modern Craft Lab. Modern Craft Lab is here in blue. And this is what I was talking about, how I don't really like how thin the lid is for a jar that big. I think that looks pretty silly, but that's just me. That's just my personal preference. Some people might like that, but I think for a nice big jar like that, the thickness of this mold for the lid is freaking perfect. The thickness of your jar here, the walls of the jar, perfect in comparison. If I can get the Modern Craft Lab out of my bowl here. Okay, in comparison. Okay, so that's that. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Hopefully you guys have some good starting measurements to work with this jar. Another thing I do is that I go in and sand the edges of the lid here, because what I find is that when I go to put my lid on and I haven't sanded it, the opening and the closing of the lid causes little chips of cement to get on the top of my wax. And then when somebody goes to open up the jar and smell it, they have little pieces of cement chips on top of their candle, and it's bad business in my opinion. But I started sanding the top here, and then I'll sand the bottom a little bit and get off any defects. But other than that, like I said, I hope you guys got some good information out of this video, some good starting measurements if you decide to buy this mold. Again, I'm a Shapemakery fan. These are the molds that I'll probably continue to buy, and still shop around other companies and businesses and things like that when it comes to different molds. But yeah, like I said, I hope you guys got some pretty good starting measurements here. If I get a better idea of how much water I use exactly, I'll let you guys know. But for now, I would just start off with 500 grams of cement if you're going to buy this mold from Shapemakery. I'm a Shapemakery fan, so I'll probably continue to use their molds. I know they're working on something a little taller. I'm not sure if it's going to be a 3-inch and taller or 3.5-inch and taller. I'm not really sure what they're working on, but I am excited to try it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.